Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Get Right Fantasy Network. I'll be your host tonight, Kendall VanDerBilt. With me, as always, my fantastic co-host, Evan Sather. Evan, how are we doing tonight?
Pretty swell, Kendall. Got a brand new microphone finally. I don't sound terrible. I don't have to use my headset mic anymore, which made me sound like a commercial airline pilot, as great as they always sound. Never mind the fact that this gaming headset isn't exactly great for microphone audio quality. And I'm back to standing again now that my pinky toe that's been broken since last month is starting to feel better. I got some clearance to not need protective footwear anymore. And we're going to see how this feels after a whole show, because I prefer to stand for this stuff.
Hey, we love it. New tech. Let's get it. I mean, it's not like your voice is already silky smooth late night DJ over here, but we're working on that production quality for you. Let's get into the show. We're talking tight ends, way too early Dynasty rankings. It's a position we don't think about very often, but I feel like when trade requests come in at tight end, a lot of us are like, wait, what do I think of this player? What do I even value him? How do I think of the position? So, in my opinion, the earlier you can be thinking about the position, we don't want to spend a lot of high-end headspace on the position we love the least, probably, in overall fantasy. But in the tight end premium leagues with multiple flexes, this has been and was this year a reasonably valuable position to get in the flex when you needed to. A little bit boomer bust, but I think for the most part it hit a little bit higher than we have in past years. So let's get into it. These are super early. They're going to change. Obviously, the NFL draft pretty heavily affects the tight end position with depth, but also just other offensive weapons. Guys that were in good situations change. So we expect the rankings to change, but let's hop into it. Evan, let's get your rankings up on the board if we can. And let's start the show off here a little bit. If you could, Evan, I would just kind of like to know, so you have your tiers set up a little more aggressive in terms of the size, at least in tier 1. And I think how you structure your tiers has a lot to do with sort of how you either might draft or value the position, or if you think, certain groups are more similar than more far away. I think compared to a lot of the public, you have more in tier 1. Did it just kind of end up that way and it'll change? Or was there anything to it that you can kind of take away from the number of players in tier 1? Any thoughts?
So the vague, general, quick answer I can give to that question is yes and no. And the reason I say that is, first of all, I recognize the incredible talent that I see that passes the eye test for guys like Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Tucker Kraft, and Sam Laporta. I view them all as strong tight end ones, even if Sam Laporta doesn't necessarily look good without Ben Johnson, and where Dan Campbell sometimes prefers to get the ball in the hands of wide receivers over the tight end. But here's the thing. This has been an unusual year for tight end, and I don't think that's going away. Tight ends in the past, you usually don't get that many that average 10 fantasy points per game or more. This year, I have actually counted it. We have had 16 tight ends that averaged 10 fantasy points per game or more, starting from Trey McBride and going all the way down to Colston Loveland, which... granted that this is full season data, not all of them necessarily played 17 games, being, Sam Laporta only played 9, for example, but I think the tight end is becoming more and more important in the passing game. You see more teams like the Green Bay Packers and the Buffalo Bills revolve their entire passing game around the tight end. And George Kittle, to a certain extent, is also the case for the San Francisco 49ers. Hopefully he heals up soon with the Achilles tear, too. It's not looking so good. He's possibly coming back in November, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But anyway, that's why I have tier 1, 2, and 3 the way that I have it. That's my top 14. I think we are now in an era where we can finally have bigger tight end tiers, being that they're becoming more and more important in the passing game.
Yeah, I actually kind of like it. My initial take on bigger tiers of tight end, particularly at tier 1, was just kind of a demonstration of year-to-year volatility in teams and how that can disproportionately affect production at the tight end position, how their usage and team role can change. They tend to be pretty touchdown heavy just based on they don't catch quite as many passes in utilization, right? I mean, Trey McBride and those guys at the tippy top, right? Doesn't even happen every year, even when you rank him that way. So touchdowns aren't a sticky stat. If you look at how NFL games happen, they evolve and take on a life of their own, as Christian McCaffrey said in a recent interview. I like the way he said that. And so I just think you can have some bigger swings year to year in the production, while the rankings don't necessarily need to swing with that. It's more of a, if players' rankings versus production are going to swing pretty heavy, I want to take a farther step back, group them closer together, and not get quite as granular, and say, hey, it's a range, things can happen, treat it that way, and you'll probably overpay a little bit less, and you'll be more willing to take some value when it's not necessarily predicted, but you have it in a larger range of outcomes with similar like players. So I think that's a strong take, actually. And I completely agree that the tight end position in the NFL seems to be somewhat trendy, higher utilization, more teams happy rostering 2 tight ends and giving them quite a bit of play. We kept thinking Loveland was going to take over. Then Cole Kmet was still kind of eking around a little bit. So let's go to some interesting takes. Obviously, you got a pretty big tier 1: Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Tucker Kraft, and Sam Laporta. If you could, I'd love to do a quick comparison of 2 particular players, both rookies, both drafted very, very high in the draft. I forget where Warren went. We know Loveland went 10 there, but this is a dynasty startup decision that a lot of people are going to rank it. And I think you can throw Tucker Kraft in there, but with his recent injury, I don't think they're going to go like right next to each other in startup drafts. Maybe a mini tier break. We'll have to see. It's an easier to pick one or the other, but particularly Warren and Loveland. A lot of people are passionate one way or another. You have Warren, same tier, but obviously you give him the nod up being a Chicago fan. Can you kind of walk me through Warren versus Loveland, how close or far apart, and what gave you the tiebreaker for Warren above him?
I'm not putting so much emphasis on ranking as I am on tiers, and I have them both in tier 1 for that particular reason, because whether or not you select Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland in your dynasty startup draft, whether or not it's tight end premium, you really can't go wrong with either one of them. You're gonna hit it big with both of them because they're both important pieces in their offenses. I guess if we had to really split hairs over why I have Tyler Warren at 3 and Colston Loveland at 4, Tyler Warren has a lot less competition in his offense compared to Colston Loveland. Sorry, not sorry. The Indianapolis Colts do not have the wide receiver firepower that the Chicago Bears do. So, as a result, yes, I'm putting Tyler Warren ahead of Colston Loveland, unless the Colts shock me with some crazy offseason moves like getting Puka Nacua on the team. Okay, that's not happening. But you know what I mean. Like, they don't have a stud that's going to really compete with Tyler Warren for targets. The Colts drafted him for a gosh darn good reason, right? He's him. He almost never came off the field last season. Can't believe it's last season already for 2025. He hardly ever saw less than 80% of the snaps in the 2025 season. He's only had 3 games in which he saw less than 80% of the snaps. So this is most definitely a guy who is going to be their future finally at tight end after going crazy with like Kylan Granson and Mo Alley Cox and guys that you probably forgot about until I mentioned them just now. I was actually pretty pissed off when the Bears drafted Colston Loveland because we had so many other needs, especially on our defensive line, and we already had Cole Kmet. But now that I see why Ben wanted to go get him so badly, yeah, I mean, he had some game-winning touchdowns like in Week 9 against the Cincinnati Bengals. This is the guy. This is going to be the tight end of the future for the Bears.
Yeah, could not agree more. I think if I had to make an argument, I think Tyler Warren, less competition. They spent for Sauce, and so they're pretty depleted on draft picks, meaning even if they wanted to address their wide receiver, I mean, what kind of capital do they have? They're probably going to have to go into the free agency to address the wide receiver position. And yeah, there's some names, but I don't see them as the most aggressive team on that list, right? So the chances the pass catching changes dramatically. He's insulated in his sort of elite pass catching role in snap share, where Loveland can be a little. It doesn't have to be that way. I would make the argument, I suppose, that Loveland has the bigger ceiling, even with all the weapons, just because the overall offense, I think, moves quite a bit better than the Colts on a good day and is going to get better. And as soon as we lose a DJ Moore, Or if Loveland's just that dude, and just forces himself into eating up targets a little bit. I like his ceiling. I think the big thing for me is I'm shooting for the moon with Loveland, and I think Tyler Warren is a little bit safer. So I guess I have them ranked that way based on a fun let's shoot for it, but it could be a little bit wiser, particularly maybe in dynasty startups. I have been advocating for a little bit more safety than shooting for the moon. Shoot for the moon later on when you have a better idea of the makeup of your team and the direction you want to go. I don't like introducing as much risk. I did a couple of dynasty auctions where I unnecessarily shot for the moon on the players I went for. And if I had just gone with more of the safe, sort of undervalued strategy, it would have worked out significantly better. So anyways, that's Loveland and Warren there. Otherwise, very similar at the top. Nothing too crazy. And I think we're all so happy. We can split hairs later on in drafting, maybe on the Brock Bowers versus McBride. In a startup, you really have to get granular because if you're going to take one, it's a big decision that you're going to live with, forever, essentially. I don't think we really need to split hairs personally. We'll have to just see how that evolves. I'll just say, obviously you have Bowers at 1, as do I. Are you feeling pretty confident that the quarterback room was about as bottomed out as it gets? And I'm not saying Mendoza has to be a world beater, but I think very competent. And with the running game, all they got to do is fix a couple of things, and they have a lot of room to grow in that offense. And with a little bit of better days, Bowers should pretty cleanly just be the best. 3 years younger than McBride, too. I feel like that's got to matter. So I'm pretty solid on Bowers over McBride. That's not everyone's take. Was that particularly close for you? We don't need a long take here, but was that something to think about?
Not really, no, because I've seen what Brock Bowers could do in his rookie season with 3 different quarterbacks who were not particularly good. Brock Bowers, the reason he looked so much worse this year is because he was playing through a knee injury, it probably in addition to other things. I don't like using injuries as an excuse because you still got to get it done, but this Raiders team this past year was so much more of a mess compared to the 2024 season. Yeah. So with Brock Bowers, he in 2024 played with Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, and Desmond Ridder throwing him the football. He still finishes the tight end 1 in PPR leagues. So being that in 2025 he had past his prime Geno Smith and occasionally Kenny Pickett getting out there, and I forgot they actually played Aiden O'Connell in Week 18. I forgot he even did that because no one cares about the Raiders, right? But Brock Bowers, he's got the talent to be the top tight end in Dynasty. And I know that you could make a case for Trey McBride too. I'm not offended by people who want to put McBride over Bowers, but anybody who tells you to fade Bowers is an idiot. I'm just going to put it that bluntly, because Brock Bowers is a top 3 tight end until further notice. And even then, top 3 is a little, that's a little low for a guy like him. Yeah, Brock Bowers is him. Trey McBride is him. You can't go wrong with either one. So I know that people in dynasty leagues have a difficult time picking the tight end. They're like, should I pick this guy or that guy? As if they can go wrong with either one. Just go get your guy. It doesn't matter about ADP. It doesn't matter where they rank with the specific ranking, which is why I have these here in tiers. Just go get your guy. As long as they're in that tier, go get your guy.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning with Bowers, he looked like an NFL tight end world beater as a freshman in the SEC. Like, he was that nice at that level. I'm a big fan of, I want to hold on to my talent evaluations from the college level and try to find is it talent? Is it coaching? If it's not working, if it is working. And I usually bet on if it worked in college and they have a reasonable coaching setup, it should work out. And I think with Bowers, with the best we haven't even seen yet, to be honest. What if the quarterback hits? Like, what if he is nice? That could be pretty special in a room that has maybe the least amount of pass catching weapons in the league, potentially.
So let me ask you this, Kendall, before we move on. If Brock Bowers has Fernando Mendoza as his new quarterback, as a lot of people are predicting Mendoza is going to get drafted by the Raiders, does that change anything for your dynasty opinion about Brock Bowers?
I mean, I where I have Bowers ranked, I'm at like a 99% that they're going to draft Mendoza. I don't think there is a fair price that could be paid with Tom Brady and ownership over there. They're ready to be reasonable. I mean, look, Max Crosby wants out publicly. He wants to be a part of the Patriots. Like, this team is bleeding because of its reputation.
Please no.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm with you on that one. But I think for that reason, this is the Jacksonville Jaguars reached up and paid a king's ransom to go get Travis Hunter. And I think the Browns were planning on, they weren't expecting that, I would say. And it just kind of happened. And they paid enough that, and I think any competent team would say, hey, you want to back up the Brinks truck? I guess I have to let you, Panthers kind of did that with the Bears the other year. I don't see a team, even if they did that, I don't think the Raiders, from an ultimate profitability standpoint, they'd lose money even if they made a great trade. They need the future. They need something to get behind. The fact that IU is literally running campus-wide commercial. I mean, I live in Indiana. I was on IU's campus. I'm a big IU guy. I think that the long-term value that Fernando Mendoza is going to hold and what they're going to do with him is just, it's all together high enough that they're going to throw the ball. Bowers, Genty, Mendoza. There's a lot that can go right and very little that can go wrong from a volume standpoint for all those guys. So yeah, sign me up. I'm super, super in.
Before we move on, speaking of trades, can I tell you a really bad dynasty trade that happened in my own league? Not last year, but 2024.
2024. Was it pre-draft or after your rookie draft?
This was in the middle of the season. This was October 21st of 2024. Brock Bowers got traded for George Kittle, Tony Pollard, and a 2025 third-round pick. I waited till you took a sip to tell you that. So guess who got the worst end of that trade?
Was that you?
Oh, hell no. No way I'm ever trading Bowers. No,
it's not you.
No. This was between two other teams in my own home dynasty league.
Do I know him?
No, you definitely don't. But and for the sake of not calling them out too hard, I won't mention their names. But yeah, trading away Bowers in the middle of his rookie year, that's an L move.
Yeah. I had a lot of 2024 picks. My dynasty strategy was, I was very invested. There were so many leagues where I almost didn't have a startable roster. I mean, I was talking like I could pick up 6 to 7 guys to get to a full roster. That's how I sold everybody for as many 2024 picks as I could. It got crazy. So I had at least 2 to 3 first-round picks in 2024 across, I think, every single league I'm in dynasty-wise. And my draft strategy was very simple. I'm going to take Brock Bowers, and then I'm going to flip some coins and figure it out. And, sometimes it worked out and I got the guy. By the way, I faded BTJ and I was so wrong before I was right. So I guess that was interesting. I also was in on Xavier Worthy, though, over Ladd. So big swing and a miss there. But hey, they're all young. We'll see what happens. But I was like, Bowers was the most can't miss tight end prospect, I think, literally in history, because I think tight end usage in the NFL uniquely went up quite a bit.
By a lot.
Years, where like I wasn't drafting like a Jeremy Shockey and stuff like that. And at least I wasn't drafting Kyle Pitts, even when he was legendary in terms of the best tight end prospect ever. I just didn't believe in the position. Thought it was too volatile. Bowers was the first where I'm like, no, that not only is he built different, but he's built different for a modern NFL. That might be a good transition point here, actually, because he's not Bowers, but he is like Bowers is actually a bit undersized. He is not. I mean, he is an athletic freak, but at tight end, he's got to look up a lot to other tight ends. He's actually more of like he's a good pass catching. He's got speed, but he doesn't necessarily have a crazy amount of size. Similar to Oronde Gadsden, who was coming into the league as an undersized, but a pass catching weapon with some athleticism and speed. And there was this pocket in the middle of the year where all of a sudden you got to see it, where he was a mismatch. He had a really, really nice ADOT. The fact he was catching 20-yard balls like Sam Laporta felt really, really nice. I'm not like in the flames on Gadsden. I'm in like a Loveland, like, yeah, he's got some ceiling, but a lot of mouths around him, and a team that what's good for the team is a balanced approach. But I think longevity, I think Gadsden's going to be good for a long time for that team. Just very startable, very usable in an offense that we still haven't seen a ceiling with yet. So I'm kind of in my micro ranking is that I have Gadsden ahead of Kyle Pitts. They're within the same tier 6 for me. I guess I can fly it on screen here just real quick. So yeah, I've got Gadsden just ahead of Pitts. I'm only doing the Fannin just above strictly because of age, and I can't explain Fannin. I could easily put Fannin at 9 that's really close to me, and I might do that at some point. But the point is, I'm pretty in on Gadsden. So, what is your take? Do you have a pretty strong take on Gadsden one way or another? Or maybe not strong, but if you had a choice at cost, do you want to buy in, or do you want to let him be someone else's problem because you think maybe a little bit of overrated because of the pop mid-season that didn't sustain? Do you have a take?
Well, there was a lot that went into that for the LA Chargers. First of all, most of their offensive line got injured, especially their best left tackle, Joe Alt, and the offense was also falling apart under Greg Roman, and he's gone. The LA Chargers now have Mike McDaniel running the offense for Jim Harbaugh. I like that so much better than Greg Roman, where Roman's offense just wasn't good enough for the tight end position. And he had the exact same problem with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely during his time on the Ravens. So, no, I'm not that worried about Oronde Gadsden. I have him at tight end 8 for a good reason, because his future is awfully gosh darn bright with this team. He showed in week 6 and 7 last year why he's most definitely week 8 too, why he's most definitely capable of being a tight end 1, even if he only catches 5 balls. Yeah, like you just said, he has a crazy high ADOT, which I suppose it also helps that his father was a wide receiver in the NFL at one point, so he's got that wide receiver knowledge and I guess we'll say genes, for lack of a better term to put it, but I digress. I like Oronde Gadsden's situation a lot better. I'm not buying into the whole undersized tight end narrative because Oronde Gadsden is Jr. is listed at 6'5" and 236. Brock Bowers is 6'4" and 235. Trey McBride is 6'4" and 246. McBride is not that much of a bigger dude compared to Bowers and Gadsden. So I don't think Evan Ingram also had some success in the passing game being an undersized tight end. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing when it comes to fantasy value. Gadsden has been seeing a lot of the field, even when a lot of Chargers offensive linemen were getting hurt. And, I don't see why they don't continue rolling with him in the future, where he made me look like a fool because I was too high on Tyler Conklin before the beginning of the 2025 season, knowing what he could do as a pass catcher on the Minnesota Vikings and New York Jets. But he's nothing now. So aside from like Will Dissly, Conklin, a bunch of other blocking tight end no-namers who might not even make the roster after training camp, like Gadsden is all alone on that tight end depth chart, and he looks freaking good when he can get the football.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I said that wrong too. What I mean by like undersized is it's not so much a negative take. I got to find a better way of saying it. But what I mean is when a team invests and gives playing time to what I might call a non-blocking tight end, right? The idea is they are a weapon because the take is they're not going to be as effective of a blocker. They're in there mostly as we're going to get him involved in the passing game, more chipping stuff. We're going to kind of feign a block, or we're going to pick up for a moment, but we are planning on breaking and being involved, right? And I think when Oronde got drafted, my take was this is a team that's investing in Joe Alt. They need O-line help, but he's a weapon. They have a lot of other weapons, but if he gets playing time, it's because he's going to be a weapon. I don't think this guy's here to make the offensive line better. So I tend to pay attention to these known pass catchers at tight end. And that's why I really was pretty positive. My post-draft take on Colston Loveland was, don't draft him in redraft. He's going to have a long year of learning, but he was drafted to absolutely be a weapon. And Ben Johnson's part of the reason other teams started copying and using the tight end more based on what he was able to do with Laporta. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty certain Loveland was drafted because he's closer to a Laporta than Tyler Warren and is just an absolute weapon. He was injured when he finally got healthy. You saw the results. And dude, that was after missing training camp, a lot of it with his injury. That was playing through a little bit of injury and then finally getting there. What is Loveland going to do with a full training camp in season 2 under Ben Johnson? My God, I'm getting so ridiculously steamed up. This is supposed to be a Gadsden take, but the idea is they're honestly our teams are not too dissimilar, right? We have pretty successful running games, and I think we're going to do that for the most part. Opportunistic defenses from time to time, and a quarterback that can just make every throw and make it look pretty good. I think the Bears and the Chargers actually have more similarities than they have dissimilarities, and both look pretty good. Let's change gears. Can't talk about Gadsden all day, although I do certainly own and have a lot of them. Let me ask you about this player, mostly because I actually want to hear. I kind of want to hear the upside, downside, kind of where you have him ranked. We have him pretty close. It's Dalton Kincaid. He is a player that in my head there's a narrative that's he had a lot of good games on a team that scores a lot of points with Josh Allen at quarterback. This seems very good. Kincaid played basketball. He's tall. I like these tight ends that also play basketball. I feel like there's a strong correlation. Like they know how to go up and get it. I always liked Kincaid from a talent opportunity, but so many reasons, right? Are you slightly more bullish on that situation, what he could become, or are you, hey, cautionary tale where you're gonna wish for it to happen forever and it's not? Where do you land with Kyle Pitts on the risk reward for kind of what he is and where you see him evolving?
So which one should I answer first, Kincaid or Pitts?
Let's start with Kincaid and let's go to Pitts next. Because Pitts I feel like he's safer all around. There's a lot of good things to talk about with Pitts. With Kincaid, I feel like there's actual downside that we have seen. I guess you could say that with Pitts too, but I like Pitts a little bit more. I'm more curious about Kincaid. We'll get to Pitts right afterwards.
So it may have shocked the fantasy football world to learn that Kyle Pitts finished PPR leagues last season at tight end 2. Tight end 2. He finally showed his first round draft capital from the year 2021 as he finally did better than his rookie season. Playing through like a knee injury, playing through I think an ankle issue too, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Kyle Pitts has been playing through quite a bit, and in addition to just being in a dysfunctional Atlanta offense that finally got rid of Raheem Morris as he wasn't working out at coach. Michael Penix, I don't know when he's expected to come back.
You won't start the season playing quarterback for sure. They're gonna have to start someone else. I don't know if he makes IR or not, but there's 0% chance he's ready for the start of the season.
Yeah, because that torn ACL in November was such a horrible thing to have happen to him. And yeah, and it was reported earlier today that Matt Ryan said that there's going to be conversations to be had about the starting quarterback, referring to Penix. So there's a lot we don't know right now about this offense. And they just hired Kevin Stefanski after he got fired from the Cleveland Browns, that head coach. I love Stefanski's landing spot with the Atlanta Falcons offense, which is also why I'm keeping Kyle Pitts at tight end 7, because Pitts is finally past injuries holding him back. Quarterback play between Penix and Cousins almost made no difference. There was only 2 games this season in which he saw a low 3 targets in the passing game, weeks 11 and 17 respectively. Otherwise, he was getting used a lot in the passing game. Not so much red zone usage, but you don't really care if it's a PPR league because he's still putting up big enough points that you like deploying him as a low-end tight end 1. And then he had that explosive 3-touchdown game against the rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, you love it when it happens, but, it's also an anomaly. But Kyle Pitts right now is 25. He just completed his 5th season. He's still got a lot of great football left in him, and it's encouraging that he's still producing like he did. Surely with a brand new head coach and a new president in Matt Ryan to take over this team from Arthur Blank. Arthur Blank as he owns the Atlanta Falcons. So I don't see why they move on from Kyle Pitts. And even if they did, it would be interesting to see where he would land. But right now, assuming he remains an Atlanta Falcon, I love having him as a mid-range tight end 1.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to rise on Pitts. I don't know what to do with him in rankings because of, like you mentioned, all those uncertainties. I think there's a really good argument that Kyle Pitts should be in front of Gadsden because he's a more talented tight end. And you could say a situation is possibly more favorable in terms of a 1-2-3 kind of punch. Kyle Pitts really is the second pass catcher. I'm going to find myself buying more into Kyle Pitts. I'm just starting. I'm starting reserved just to make sure I follow the process correctly. But I'm kind of there on him.
You want to hear something kind of kooky?
I do.
So Kyle Pitts, in every year he's been in the NFL, has increased his total touchdowns on the season by 1. Rookie year, 1 touchdown. Sophomore year, 2 touchdowns. 2023, 3 touchdowns. 2024, 4 touchdowns. 2025, 5 touchdowns. He better get 6 touchdowns or else I'm going to be upset.
So, okay, hypothetically, next season you own Kyle Pitts, okay? It's week 11. Okay, we got trade deadline coming up in a couple weeks. He scores a 6th touchdown. Do you sell Kyle Pitts? Because he's not going to score the rest of the year, right?
Well, I'm not saying you should bank on such advice where I'm just joking, but Kyle Pitts is not a sell to me. I mean, unless you get some incredible offer that helps you upgrade, like for some reason, if somebody doesn't believe in Sam Laporta for some reason and wants to send you Laporta to get back Pitts, go right ahead and do that, because I'm fine with giving up Pitts for Laporta, because I like Laporta in a better offense. They got rid of Johnny Morton as their offensive coordinator. I'm trying to remember who they hired as his replacement. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, but
I do not. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. But I mean, at this point, it's going to be an upgrade for sure. There's a lot of people that are going to be good there. I forget who. I think they hired someone, right?
Drew Petzing, and he was the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals. A lot of people don't like Drew Petzing as an offensive coordinator, but if anything, Petzing did a really good job with the running game. Unfortunately, James Conner and Trey Benson got hurt, but I like that a lot better for their running backs. And I mean, Trey McBride is already matchup proof as it is, but I don't hate the hiring as much as I hate to say that about the Detroit Lions, as much as I hate their team, but I think that's a good replacement.
Yeah. I think people are using the Cardinals suck, so he sucks kind of thing. But in my opinion, the Cardinals did not suck. Kyler Murray sucks, but when he wasn't there, the team started to get better. Things looked nice. The offense, with the right pieces, the offense kind of looked nice. There were some games where they were like, "Who is this team, man?" They got a. You tell me who would have had a better chance at winning a game? The Carolina Panthers in the playoffs or the Cardinals? I think there's an argument the Cardinals probably could have had a chance to do more than the Panthers in terms of weapons and whatnot.
I'm still going Panthers.
Yeah, they got a better defense for sure, but you got to score points to win in the NFL. I just don't love the Panthers' offense or their quarterback at all. But I guess this is a pro Drew take. I think he made players work that haven't worked in a while when he finally got the QB change. So I'm encouraged by the change for sure. I think he's going to be okay.
I think that's good for Laporta, though. I don't know what you think about that, though.
I'm a little anti Laporta right now, but it has nothing to do with his talent. I'm down on Laporta because I think the way his production came was less reliably predictable. When he had his real breakout season, what I saw a lot of was, we got to do something to stop this defense. We got to do something to stop this. And Laporta had all these broken plays where I want to say he did what he was supposed to do, but there was so much production. I watched every single one of these games, and I remember thinking, is he good, or is he literally, I mean, I'm talking 20 yards of separation. Like, what are they doing? And then he just found himself available. But as soon as defenses started to key in on it and they over-targeted him in the red zone, I don't think he immediately started seeing less success as soon as he kind of was a thing. And I don't like the way the offense looked a lot of the time this past season. And I think Laporta's got room to grow into it. I guess I'm being cautious on Laporta because I see a lot of range of outcomes where Ben Johnson is that dude. And it's hard to replace that dude. And what I mean is, sometimes it's better to never have a guy like that than to have and lost him. Because the guy filling those shoes, it's tough. Everybody knows you're not as good as the other guy. But you want to prove yourself, so maybe you take bigger risks. Maybe you go away from what should work because you just want to win the locker room. You see this in organizational leadership all the time. When you're filling big shoes, not everyone thinks correctly. It's a morale issue. It can get weird and it can get ugly. And it doesn't have to happen that way, but I'm being a little bit cautious. But just to say, talent wins in the end, and it's not an anti-Sam Laporta's talented take. With the right coaching, if it hits that way, he will be that good. It's more of an I'm not sure the coaching will get solved in 1 year with Detroit. Long term, it will. I'm kind of fading them next year a little bit. I like Gibbs. I think Gibbs is going to be massive next year. I just don't know how to shake the rest of it out, right? Between J-Mo and Laporta, I don't know who's going to be up or down. The offense has been so good for so long, and I think they have to take a step back at some point. So sometimes you got to kind of put a mark in the sand and say, I see enough things that I'm just not going to be in on a player. but it's not because of the talent. This is a 1-year dynasty take, though. So as soon as year 2, if Laporta starts bad, he'll be the easiest guy where I'm like, I don't want to draft him, but I do kind of want to buy him if he has a bad season because I like him long term. I hope that makes sense.
I mean, I think some of that is an emotional take, too, because when you lose a guy like a Ben Johnson, yeah, it hurts, but it was going to happen at some point in the future because all coaches have to move on at some point. I mean, when the Bears... I hated how Michael McCaskey fired Ditka in 92, but somebody else at some point had to step up. And it took a while for the team, but they eventually landed on Lovie Smith, who brought the Bears back to the Super Bowl in 2006. And now we're hoping for the same thing 20-some years later with Ben Johnson, but only time will tell. So, yeah, it sucks to lose a Ben Johnson, but I think Drew Petzing is stepping into a really good role, and he's going to do a better job than Johnny Morton.
I might need to hear that take more often. Well, I'll put it this way: if I'm out on him, I'm nervous about it. There are takes where you're like, "Nah, man, fight me!" Like I'm in there, right? This is not one of those, right? But you can't be heavy on everybody, right? I feel like every year there's a player or two that I say, "Hey, I've got enough red flags where not everyone can be ranked highly." It's the beautiful thing of the brutal. Is that a new word? That's going to be a term now. The brutal,
brutal yet beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing. Putting that on a shirt. That's Get Right merch coming soon. Get that on a coffee mug. Most definitely.
I'll wear it.
Yeah, I like that. So we'll see. I'm a little bit afraid. I bought him this year in Dynasty. Like I'm putting my money where my mouth is in terms of I think he's long term viable, but I'm gonna take a short term dip on him. I'm gonna short term sell, but I like him in 27. I think the year could be a little rough. We'll see. I could be wrong. Historically, Detroit always has problems, but it'd be good for the Bears if they took a back seat, man. If 1 year we can have just 2 teams and the Bears be one of them at the top, that would be nice. Let's move on a little bit, though. Let's talk about a couple of extra players here. I want to hear about a guy you have ranked a little bit lower, still on screen, though. Jacksonville is kind of a weird team. I have always historically liked Brenton Strange. I think people that didn't know who he was didn't realize he was a second-round pick. I don't remember what pick order was. I think he was relatively early in the second, too. He was reasonable draft capital. He's one of a few players where it's something I like to see. Sometimes when players come back from injury, it takes them a second. He came back from injury and just like caught 7-8 balls. He was just like right back to his old thing. And there's how many mouths can you get? They already had a lot of mouths, and they added Jacoby Myers. But Brenton Strange seemed to be like just very consistent through all those mouths. So I'm pro on him. You're higher than not anybody, no, but you're pretty high on him just overall compared to the market. Well, why do you like Brenton Strange?
I love him as a high-end tight end 2 with tight end 1 upside. Jacksonville's offense took a little while to get off the ground with a brand new Liam Cohen system, and Trevor Lawrence has been dying for that Evan Ingram replacement for just a short while. Ingram got injured in 2024, and they had a hard time figuring out who could step up in his absence, and that turned out to be Brenton Strange, who was in his second year in 2024. He was quietly getting a good number of targets at the beginning of that season before Ingram got hurt, and then he had that gigantic breakout game, 12 targets against the Jets in Week 15 of 2024. He caught 11 of them for 73 yards. That's 18.3 fantasy points in regular scoring PPR leagues. And I saw that James Gladstone, their GM at the time, was talking up Brenton Strange, that they were going to start using him in 2025 in a way that people have not seen before. We didn't know what that meant at the time, but it was a good sign that they like who they have in him. Because I think some people were probably afraid that they were going to go and draft Tyler Warren with the 5th pick in the 2025 draft, and they didn't. They went Travis Hunter. They didn't bother drafting a Tyler Warren or another tight end. So they like who they have in Brenton Strange. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 tight end ever, but if he finishes tight end 14, I will not be at all surprised. The last year he got hurt for 5 games, unfortunately. I forgot what he had, but he played in 12 out of 17 games, and he still finishes tight end 23. He can do longer passes. He can do shorter passes. He's got that versatility. He doesn't see a ton of red zone targets as much as that Jaguars offense struggled a bit at times, but they were still winning games, and that was what was most important. I think Brenton Strange is remaining the future at tight end for the Jaguars until we see the management say otherwise. I think Liam Cohen likes him a lot. I think Trevor Lawrence likes him a lot. And if you have him in your tight end room, you're happy. I'm still pro buying Brenton Strange. I made a YouTube short on my Barely Fantasy channel last year that said buy Brenton Strange. I still pretty much feel the same, even with time a year passing.
Yeah. I'm in. I think he's just massively. I love your take, and you're like, hey, I'm not like crazy in him. I just think he's gonna be super stable, always involved, tight end too, and is just always gonna be somewhat impressive, pleasantly surprised. Right, your expectations versus what you get is. It's just good, man. And it's good in the right way. Like his production didn't come from touchdowns. Love that at tight end. It's rare. If he ever got some touchdown luck, like, in my opinion, when I look at him on the field, I liked him better on the field than I did Ferguson for the Cowboys, right? Where I think Ferguson's big seasons were more off of touchdown luck, where if you gave that to him, he would be better. But his actual, like how he helped the offense move was just great. He was just a move the chains tight end. We see better quarterback play out of that team, right? And maybe he's over the hump finally. I hope he doesn't regress. That says a lot that, okay, that could be an improved situation. So yeah. I feel like the offense in general is just going to be pretty good, above average for a while. You want a tight end in that offense, just like you want a running back. Good offenses put up points when you're on the field like he is. That's going to correlate, right? However you size it up. So I feel like he's one of the safest tight ends you can go after, but he doesn't have the name value. And a lot of people keep thinking he'll fall off, but there's realistically no reason. The team loves him. Like the team loves him. The coach loves him, right? So I think if you don't watch all the press conferences that we do or kind of hear some of the team speak, you wouldn't have caught that. Like they have plans for him next year. But he's not going to make the big shows who are talking about the top guys, right? So I think he's maybe hidden in value. I think that's a really, really smart take.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, too. In 12 games last season, he averaged 9.8 fantasy points per game in PPR leagues last season. That puts him at 18th best tight end for PPR leagues. So that's where he's ranked among the rest. That's why I have him as a high-end tight end, too. He didn't finish as tight end 18 last year, but he was averaging 9.8 fantasy points per game out of 12 games. So, yes, that's why I have him as high as I do. And I think that's reasonable to say that I don't think he's tight end one material on a consistent basis, but you could definitely count on him for solid high-end tight end 2 value.
Yeah. Worth noting, I mentioned he got a lot more of his production from catches and yardage than he did from touchdowns. In tight end premium leagues, that is an extra little bump. I think he gains extra value in that because you don't have to worry so much about the touchdowns. His production is going to be a little bit better. I liked Theo Johnson in tight end premium just because he caught a decent amount of passes out of necessity. I like these tight ends that can win in multiple ways, and that's definitely one of them. So yeah, liking Brenton Strange.
Can we talk a little bit about Theo Johnson? Speaking of the Giants,
yeah, please. I maybe you don't know this, but on all the shows. It's not because of Mike or anything. Every year there's one or two teams that I kind of fall in love with. From a fantasy perspective and a real life NFL perspective for a little while. Somehow I'm going to become an old man very quickly because I've been fully tailing Colin Cowherd on this, but it's not because it's his take. Everyone's going to say that at some point in time. It's purely my take. I like the Giants this year in 2026. I like a lot of the pieces, the offense. I think it comes together. And I like Theo because of that. But I'm curious to hear more because I don't really have a great Theo take outside of I generally like the offense.
I don't like the offense anymore. The New York Football Giants hired Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator to join John Harbaugh's staff.
That did ruin my take quite a bit when that happened. I'm still reeling from that one, by the way, as a Bears fan. Oh, my God, right? Like, what a dagger.
That's going to be... New York Giants fans, if you're listening to this show, especially you, Classic Mike, good luck to you. You're going to need it because you're in for a lot of bland disappointment with the way Matt Nagy runs his offenses, where it's going to be a lot of wide receiver flat routes, running back draws, and good luck getting the ball in the tight end's hands because I don't think anything is changing for Theo Johnson. I have him as my tight end 16 for my Dynasty PPR rankings, but that's just more so a case of like, where do I put this guy? And he's talented enough that I think in a Giants offense that is now getting more and more exciting with being able to move the football better, I like him a little more than Mason Taylor, being that the Jets are going nowhere fast. But Theo Johnson, I can't put above tight end 16. AJ Barner's going to be in a better situation. So is Brenton Strange, who we just got done talking about. Theo Johnson is talented enough to be in the top 20 for tight ends, but Theo Johnson is not a strong must-buy from me. I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed when they spend quite a bit to buy Theo Johnson, only to find out that he doesn't really do any better in tight end premium leagues. In non-tight end premium leagues, he finishes tight end 18 in PPR leagues. If you're okay with that, cool, because I don't think anything is going to change because he's still going to get the ball. But man, that offense is going to be just as bad, if not worse. I mean, I'm so worried about the Giants' offense. We're going to see how well this take ages, like 8 months down the road.
Yeah, I'm curious myself, mostly because I love Neighbors and I really like Dart. I love Wandale. I love Scadaboo. I'm almost at the point where I'm like, is there a world where the talent is good enough to overcome what's, I think, going to be awful offensive play calling? I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I like those guys that much where I'm like, you can drop the worst play in the world. They might make it work if I'm right on the talent, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Coaching matters in the NFL like none other sport that I've seen. So we'll have to see. Because of that reason, I'm so in on everybody else that I have them outside of my top 20. Like I barely have them in there. But you had some fighting words from my boy Mason Taylor, man. I got to try and convince you to see him in a new light, possibly. Let me see if I can convince you a little bit, because it's not a pro Jets take by any means. This is let me give you some names of tight ends that are in horrible offenses, right? Brock Bowers, Trey McBride. With the quarterback change, I mean, Tyler Warren, they're a little bit better. Harold Fannin. For a lot of the year, honestly, Kyle Pitts was in a bad offense. Well, I guess that's a lot of names, though. Those guys are way more talented than Mason. But here's my take on Mason. He's got the role where I don't know what they do at wide receiver. I just don't know what they do and how quickly they do it. He had some injuries, but he's got the pedigree of having an NFL dad. That matters for offseason preparation, taking it seriously. I think year to year, tight end's a position that needs to learn, needs to grow. You don't walk in ready to go unless you're a Brock Bowers, right? Trey McBride took a little bit to get there, right? Many do. I think he's going to get better quicker. I think of all players to shake off you're in a bad spot on the Jets, but you can be the number one pass catcher if you're decent. Like that can not over Garrett Wilson, that excuse me, but you can be right there. You can be, you can be that team's Travis Kelce. You have every right to be that guy because the team would be very happy with that happened, right? If he started playing good, there's the over-targeted, hyper-targeted version of Mason Taylor. He has to get there, but I like the idea that he could have that role. Sometimes tight ends lose a role in the offense and it implodes. I saw that with Jake Ferguson, where down the stretch from week 11 on, he never scored double-digit fantasy points. He can't have that. The offense just moved away from him. And I think that one of the big things for tight ends is the offense can't move away from you. If you're going to be a tight end 2, and he's barely hanging on a tight end 2, I don't see him as a tight end 1, but if you're going to hang on the tight end 2 space, you just need opportunity and consistent opportunity. And I think he's always going to get it. And I think the Jets are an absolute tire fire, but he was seeing 8 and 9 targets in some of those tire fire games. Now, it was literally the worst I've ever seen possibly in my entire life. So tire fire is being far too kind. That was not an NFL team, right? I think LSU last year could have probably beat the Jets, and they weren't even good. So there's a lot going on there. Pure take, NFL dad, great work ethic. He's going to work his ass off when other people won't. And then he's going to earn an 80+% snap share and all the targets he can handle. If that happens and if he ever finds himself off the Jets ever, I want to buy him while he's got the Jets stink. Because if he goes literally anywhere, I mean, not to the moon, not going that spicy, but like, can he be a Brenton Strange on another team or better? Right? Can he be a Brenton Strange, Dallas Goedert? Absolutely, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
And I'd give him a slightly higher ceiling purely based off of, dude, your dad was nice and you're doing good at a very young age. He came into the league young still. So he's got lots of room. You know, I think he's only a year and a half older than Kyle Pitts when he came into the league. So he's got a long time to progress. So I like him. I'm going to bet on maybe 26 sucks for him. I think high target share, low efficiency, low production. But I would still buy that because you can buy him for nothing. And if you get any positive, you're going to profit in the short term. But long term, by the time he's 25, which will be 3 years from now, I think there's the sky's the limit for a 25-year-old talented tight end pedigree from the NFL, and something could happen because I don't think he's on the Jets in 29, 28 or something like that. So
how many guys are even on the Jets after 4 seasons? You know what I mean? Like they're going through talent like crazy. Sauce Gardner wanted to get the hell off of the Jets. Breece Hall is next. And I don't see how the Jets changed for the better with Woody Johnson owning the team. I wanted to put Mason Taylor higher than tight end 17 in my Dynasty rankings, where I still have older guys like Dallas Goedert and George Kittle ahead of him. But considering the youth that's there, the potential that's there, unless he gets onto another team that isn't the New York Jets, I cannot put him any higher because there's no excuse for a raw talent like a Mason Taylor to be averaging 6.8 fantasy points per game in PPR leagues when you have the hands that he has. With how inconsistent that offense was, with how much he was getting hurt between what did he have before the neck injury? He had the ankle injury in week 1, but he was fine from that. He missed the final 3 games of the season due to a neck injury. When any football player has a neck injury, I hold my breath because I hate neck injuries on players because that's what can kill careers. Zach Moss is now a running back that has disappeared thanks to a neck injury. So Mason Taylor is expected to be fine for the start of the 2026 season, so I'm not so worried about it in his case. But as a New York Jet, unless he goes to a new team, I can't raise him. I have to keep him at tight end 17.
Yep. This will be a fun. We'll see. I guess I think I've got a rare take here where I'm saying I want to find a buy the dip, but I don't plan on starting him in 26. This is one of those deep dynasty takes from like I've got to find. I like players who are at the absolute bottom of their barrel where I can skip a year. I can buy him and skip a year. You got to find but at some point in time in 26, he's going to be it can only go up from here, or trade talks, then it's over. Then the buying window's over. I want to buy early enough where there's still a good case for him to do nothing. And
yeah, if you want to buy Mason Taylor, yeah, I give you my salute too if you can get him at a great price because I think he's a great hold.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like trading for him is going to be tricky. Because if you don't structure it right, it just looks exactly like what it is. And everyone's going to be like, yeah, no, I don't want to be wrong on this. Right. And that's what tells me like enough people are going to be like, I'm holding him a little bit. Right. Like I like holding Mason Taylor a whole lot more than like maybe we'll kind of end on this take. But I think I would much rather hold a Mason Taylor and see realistic upside than a guy, honestly, I wasn't high on in the draft process. I just like the opportunity, and I think it's over. I really had to look, and I think it's over. And you are the highest in the industry on the biggest reason it is over for this guy. And I think Elijah Arroyo is going to have pretty tough sledding in the NFL because of the barnyard situation happening here. I'll let you take it away. You like this player a lot. Talk to me about AJ Barner.
So AJ Barner, I actually just raised to tight end 15 prior to us beginning to record this show tonight. I love the potential that AJ Barner has. He is clearly a better pass catcher at this stage than Elijah Arroyo. I might be a little harsh on Elijah Arroyo right now because he's a rookie and he's trying to get used to a brand new offense, but I was not a big fan of the second round pick that the Seahawks spent on him. I just saw him as another unexciting Noah Fant, where Noah Fant might catch a touchdown here and there, but he's not a key piece of the Bengals offense right now. It's Mike Gesicki. And even then, Gesicki's not that big of a piece in the Bengals offense. So, but regardless of what the Bengals are doing, I love what the Seahawks have in an AJ Barner because I loved him as a rookie where he was catching some good, like, tough short yardage passes, and he started to see an increase in usage, especially red zone usage, at the end of the season against some easier matchups against the tight end like the Rams, the Panthers, and even, kind of the 49ers to a certain extent, but I think they did a better job defending him. Steelers, Cardinals, Buccaneers, they can't defend tight ends either. He fell in the end zone. Even if he only gets 3 targets, I like that as a tight end too, where we try to get volume as much as we can from the tight end position where it's not as easy. But as I was saying at the beginning of the show, this was an unusual year for tight end that I don't think is going away. I think it's going to be a lot more valuable, and I think A.J. Barner has nowhere to go but up. I don't like judging tight ends before they play 2 seasons in the NFL, which also includes Elijah Arroyo, but I don't see this guy being the starting tight end for much longer. When Mike McDonald decided to sit Elijah Arroyo out of the NFC Championship game due to a coach's decision, that's really, really bad. I think Elijah Arroyo's future with the Seahawks is not good. I have Elijah Arroyo at tight end 26 right now, but I think after the show, or maybe even right now, I'm going to start sinking him because I do not like his future at all with the Seahawks. Even when he would catch passes like going 4 for 5 against Houston, he lost a fumble. Like, this guy is struggling like Caleb Johnson as a running back on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I need to see more out of Elijah Arroyo before I judge him, though, but I think it's he's got a big uphill battle to have fantasy football relevance.
Yeah, love that. I didn't consider ranking him as aggressively and highly until I saw your rankings, but, I don't always move something quick, but he's a player that I own a lot of him. I liked him. I was trying to convince other people that he would be there to stay. I've just never ranked him that way. And it was a breath of fresh air to see someone just as convicted and more so than I was. But, I have this thought in my head where, the team made the Super Bowl. They're not going to make drastic changes. They got a great program over there. But people are like, man, it's crazy. JSN has just like no target competition whatsoever. Like, aren't they going to need a pass catcher? And I keep telling myself, or I keep asking myself, why not AJ Barner just getting a little bit more involved? Like, not a lot, but like, he caught a lot of touchdowns. He had a lot of like 2 catch games where it was still like at least one or both were touchdowns. And he can rush him in every now and again, right? Like, there's a lot of ways. Why couldn't he have more heavier targeted games, right? I do truly see that. I don't think he's going to get up to like a target hog, target monster, but he was productive on very few targets, hyper efficient. And I think they can design a few more looks specifically for him after what he showed this season. And I think he allows them to not need an expensive or a dynamic wide receiver. They can just have that third down getter, that dynamic pass catching weapon they can keep on the field in a lot of different formations. So I think he's one that's even going to see a little bit of a rise next year. Gotta love a tight end and a good offense too. That's just such an elite tiebreaker. And if this team goes a little less, they scored a lot of touchdowns in the running game. I mean, a lot. If all you need is that to flow a little bit more towards the pass catching positions as a whole. And I think we expect to see that next year with, maybe a Kenneth Walker walking, possibly. We'll see what happens. We don't know, but there's a lot of signs that point to, arrow up or down in terms of what could happen. I think it's all up for AJ Barner. So really, really great sake. I love to hear that, man. That's pretty fun.
What do you think about the ranking I now just put at Elijah Arroyo, where I used to have him at 26? I think he belongs at 38 now, just above Mike Gesicki.
From a dynasty value like from a range of outcomes perspective, I'd probably want to be a little bit higher on him because like I don't think Elijah Higgins has any potential to ever be relevant. Where like I think Elijah Arroyo is just young enough where I would give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Like Elijah Arroyo versus Ben Sinnott. Okay, I'm gonna go Ben Sinnott there, but I like Elijah Arroyo over Elijah Higgins. I like him over Cole Kmet. I think overall, I think both are not going to be great in the future.
You do raise a good point. I'm going to do this.
Like, do I want to get him aggressively higher? No, but I want to give him an age modifier where in his current situation could change drastically. He could be on another team. He could just level up a lot and say, I got benched in the NFC Championship game. I got a lot to learn. He was injured. I got to see at least a few weeks into next year where it's just actual bad before I could bury him, because he could be bad next year, but actually be decent the following year and still be young, where it's probably over for Evan Ingram. There's a lot of players. Chig, it's probably done because their rookie was starting to look pretty good. There's guys where the upside is gone. They're just kind of in this, like, they can be relevant in redraft, but Dynasty, it's fully off the cliff. In a 3-year window, they're toast. In a 2-year window, they're In a 1-year window, we're looking at those guys and saying something could happen. That's where I think Arroyo still has to be probably a top 30 play, but not much higher. So I'm splitting hairs here a little bit. But yeah.
Are we talking about Gunnar Helm?
Yeah, Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, I didn't think Gunnar Helm even looked spectacular as a pass-catching tight end for the Tennessee Titans. I don't even have him in my dynasty rankings because I don't see why he's fantasy relevant right now. If he shows some pulse this offseason, then yeah, I'll add him. But right now, I just figured there's a few tight ends that might have some backup potential. But outside of that, I don't see why I need to go beyond like dead last in Taysom Hill, who is fool's gold every single year in redraft leagues.
Yeah, with Gunnar, I'm not spicy on him, but I am spicy on the reason everyone looked bad in that offense is look at the catchable ball percentage. Cam Ward was truly awful for many of those games where there's a lot of targets and few catches. Nobody watched the Titans game for very long, right? But I saw enough because I was actually a guy that was Gunnar Helm was like free in a lot of my dynasty leagues, and I actually went and picked him up just as like, hey, we've got a little bit of a waiver situation here where I can grab him. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt of saying, I don't know if he's good, but I do know he wasn't bad because it was all him. Those were just not catchable balls, and the defense was Cam Ward. He wasn't looking off the secondary. It was totally telegraphing everything, which made, the defense could really, really charge on the ball there. So we'll see. The Gunnar Helm's never going to be like a top 30 guy for me, but we'll see. Tight ends at that level, I'm just looking for what could happen because they're probably all dead, but I'll take a pop at least at the rookie that can get better. The guy who's had 2 or 3 years and might become something, they're toast. They're gone for me. Like Jatavian Sanders, nope, it's over. You had a little bit of a shot, you're toast. If I were to compare a Jatavian Sanders with like an Arroyo or Gunnar, I'm like, Jatavian is actually 6 feet under for me, where the other guys, I'll give him a year, right? Like I'll give him a year to see what happens. And so that's as far as I'll go. As nice as I can be.
Well, we have to see if the Panthers ever draft anybody like a Greg Olsen ever again, even though Olsen was technically... Wasn't he traded from the Bears to the Panthers?
Yep.
Yeah, so the Bears traded him there. The Panthers have not had a worthwhile tight end ever since either. Like, I cannot think of anybody else outside of Greg Olsen that they had that was worth a crap at that position. They went after a Tommy Tremble, who's more of a fullback than a tight end. And Mitchell Evans had a few games where he was getting some touchdowns, but even then, I don't think he's ever going to develop into anything worth a crap. And they have James Mitchell, who is, I think he used to be a Detroit Lion, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was a Lion. They don't have anybody. I don't know what the Panthers are going to do at that position.
Yeah, dude. I honestly, I don't know either, because this upcoming tight end class, in my opinion, is trash. And the only guy that might be okay with Sadiq is going to go too high, and he's not going to the Panthers. I don't even like him, to be honest with you. So we'll have to see. I think they're going to have another Jatavian Sanders year of not doing much. There's some tight ends that could be on the trade market. I don't think the Bears fully get rid of Cole Kmet, but I think that's actually a pretty good target for the Panthers because I think Cole Kmet's underrated. He was pretty solid. He's not great, but he's solid.
If the Bears lose Cole Kmet and he ends up going to the Panthers the way that Greg Olsen did, I'll hate it. Don't get me wrong, because I love me some Cole Kmet, but I'd understand because Colston Loveland is the guy that Ben Johnson wants to rely on more.
Yeah. I'm in. It's one of those things. I don't even hate keeping Cole Kmet. I like the heavy tight end set situation. Not a bad play, but is what it is. Evan, I'll throw it to you. I think I never want to go over an hour on tight ends because that's just giving them more screen time than I think they deserve in one sitting. You know what I mean? You shouldn't stretch the show on tight ends, but is there any singular tight end that you have a nuanced take that you feel kind of needs to hit the air, or someone you want to hear my spicy thoughts on?
Honestly, my rankings are not really that spicy for dynasty tight ends, where I try to factor in the age and the longevity of how long you're going to have these guys. Maybe I have Njoku a little too high still, but I just remember how fantastic he was out of University of Miami, the U. But even then, he just kept getting injured, and they drafted Harold Fannin Jr. to be his gradual replacement. Njoku wants to re-sign with the Browns, but I don't know if the Browns are even going to keep him. Outside of that, I mean, I don't really have any spicy takes on any of these tight ends. I mean, I guess I'll kick it back to you here, Kendall. Do you see anybody on my rankings list that's egregious?
Anybody that's egregious? No, I think, like you said, I don't think you were too spicy. I mean, it's tight ends too, so like, do you want to be the spicy on tight ends guy? I don't see us as ever being that type of an analyst who's like, I'm going to plant my flag on tight end. And if we're going to do so, it's going to be more chalky guys that we're deciding whether to buy or sell for the most part. Yeah, I don't think so. If anything, I was going to say who you changed my mind on a little bit was, I'm afraid to be wrong on Laporta, but you're going to hear me later on in the year kind of being he's my fade, but you're scaring me a little bit there. I like Kevin Kittle a little bit higher. I think I can't have him. Well, no, you got him at 12. I think that's probably fine too. I got him right around there. So I like your take on Kittle. I don't think he's a top 10 tight end anymore, specifically for Dynasty. Goddard, I'm pretty out on Goddard, I guess. He's the only guy I think I'm a little, you might be a little high on just for me personally, only because I think the offense is going to continue to have some struggles, and he's kind of getting up there in age, and I don't think he's going to be elite for forever. I liked his situation more than I liked him being the reason that he was so good. No, I don't think you have anything too crazy. I'm maybe a little spicier on Fannin. I still don't understand where the production comes from. I didn't understand it in college. I don't understand it in the NFL. He's an enigma for me. Of like, how does he keep doing it? I don't get it. I hated his tape in college. I absolutely hated it. He had a bunch of production at Bowling Green, and it didn't look good to me on film, but is what it is. The only thing I'll end with is I'm kind of in on Terrence Ferguson. I don't have a whole lot of reason to be. This is one of those called shots where I liked him in the draft process. I actually liked his film a lot. I liked him more than Fannin. I only drafted Fannin because I didn't want to be wrong. I'm so glad I did that. But I think Ferguson could level up. Like Parkinson was good this year, but look, I don't think Parkinson was good because he's good. I think he's smart enough to know how to fit in, and I think Stafford was the reason that kind of happened. I think we saw a tiny little pop. There were some schemed looks for Ferguson in the end zone. I can really see Ferguson hitting in an unobvious way next year. Puka's been known to get banged up a little bit, and aging Devontae Adams. They're going to try to run this puppy back next year, and there's going to be plenty of weeks where it's Devontae but not Puka, or Puka not Devontae. I really do see Ferguson having opportunity to step in and make big plays. And I don't think 26 is like his year, but I think he'll step into the role where he'll become the guy they drafted him to be. And then I think he's just going to have great usage because they're going to lose weapons, but he'll be the consistent. If he earns a solid role, at some point you lose Devontae, right? And then it gets to the situation of who do you replace him with? And if it's not a stud, I think he has the opportunity to be a pretty solid target earner in a good offense. If the wheels fall off, Stafford hurts his back, sure, that could be a toast take pretty soon. But he's like 22, turning 23. So even if that happens, we got a long time for him to figure it out. I'm just, my flag plant is Terrence Ferguson is going to be a pleasantly surprising player in 2026 that you might wish you had bought while he was super, super cheap, because he would have been close to free with how Parkinson's like, 25, 26. So it looks like he could be the guy. I think that's the mirage that's going to have Ferguson buried in value below Parkinson in some cases, and that's just not going to be the truth by the middle to end of 26.
Parkinson is 27 and Ferguson is 22.
Okay, so Parkinson is a little bit older. I don't know why I thought I may have thought something was 25. I could be looking at old numbers, but yeah, the fact that Ferguson's super young, Parkinson's older than you think. Parkinson will be around, I think. I'm not sure. I don't know the contract situation, but just I'm in on Ferguson. I don't think you're going to see it right away. It won't be a full Loveland. It'll actually be more productive sooner, but he was my guy where I'm like, I thought it was going to be this year. He didn't hit right away, but I'm in. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And Juwan Johnson is still the cheapest productive tight end probably going in next year for the Saints. If you can pick him up for a fourth, I love him. I think he's actually going to win you some games next year, like he did this past season. I've been drum beating Juwan Johnson on the waiver wires. Like, I have to say it every week because people still drop him, but he's underrated. I think he's actually still going to have a year or two in the NFL. He's going to be like just fine and serviceable So don't sleep on Juwan.
Yeah, don't sleep on Juwan, but don't pay too much for him either because he is 29. He just completed his 6th season. I don't know what the Saints offense. I think Tyler Shuck is going to like throwing to him for future games, but Johnson I don't see as a must hold for a centerpiece for your receiving game, being that Johnson kind of got thrown in a situation where he had to catch passes because all they had was Chris Olave. That offense was such a mess last year, but it's looking like there's some positive hopefulness for the future with Tyler Shuck looking NFL ready and a lot better, but they just need some more weapons. And I don't think Juwan Johnson is going to hold on to tight end 1 value for much longer, which is why I have him as my tight end 22. I don't think the longevity is there.
Oh, yeah. No, I probably have him lower than you. He's my don't rank him high, but like the rankings are going to have him just buried because he wasn't even supposed to have the season he was. He's my 1-year wonder. If you can get him for next to free, like a 4th is the most I would go. Like him for a 4th.
Sure. Kendall, I love this episode. Are we ready to start wrapping things up?
Yeah. Tell the people where to find you, what you got going on coming up soon.
If you haven't already, follow me on Blue Sky at barelyfantasy.bsky.social. Don't bother with Twitter. I gave that up. Elon Musk, go fuck yourself. I love Blue Sky. I'm usually talking crap on there. I'm usually talking Bears, commenting on other sports. I'll be promoting stuff like this video on there. Follow me there if you haven't already, and look for Barely Fantasy on YouTube as well. Now that I got this new microphone, I can finally start making new content. So subscribe and stay tuned.
Yes, indeed. This has been it for another show, Early Dynasty Rankings, Get Right Fantasy Network. If you like our takes the way we think, we chatted up in the Discord quite a bit. Really cool community, draft oriented. Our guys are in the mock draft streets every day, all day. If we're not running a draft, they're awesome. Some of the nicest people I've ever had a chance to meet. When you see fantasy football on X, for instance, that can get toxic, but our guys are like the opposite of that. It's good neighborhood values, really good people. Friday Night Mocks, we probably are going to start that tomorrow. Haven't advertised it one bit, but we're probably going to be out in the mock draft streets. I think we're going to go ahead and get that started. Maybe I'll market it more for next week. But if you like mock drafting, you're going to love hanging out with us. Evan will have a Monday show for that. We're known for our Friday show. And coming up in a week, 2, 3, somewhere in the next 3-4 weeks, for sure, maybe even earlier, keep tuned for a new show that me and Evan are going to spearhead all on the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan and listen to the show, we're going to be talking some dedicated Chicago Bears stuff. So stay tuned. If you want to see more of that, get in the Discord, and we'll talk to you. Get in the comments. We'll see you next time.